Welcome back. It's Left of the Dial. Actually, I wasn't going to finish this up. I had 20 more albums to go. Well, I don't got no albums to show. But I started this, and some people were asking, well, what are your 20? What are your top 20? You don't need to show the album. You don't need to have the music. And you're right. I hate to start something and then not finish it, especially because some of my favorites were coming up in the top 20. So, hey, why don't, we're just going to do it. It's not very well researched. I obviously no samples or anything like that. I know you guys are going to forgive me, but I did figure out how to go on and find pictures of the albums to put on. So, hey, technology. So, just kind of finished a hard day. We've been Cloroxing the basement, and someone sends me the thing saying, "Oh, you don't want to use Clorox." What? What? I just did. So it's been really hot, but we did get a hot water heater yesterday. Don't have electricity down there. Still waiting for furnace and air conditioning, but we're making it through and plugging away, and it's all good. So I can't complain. So let's begin. Number 20, Green on Red. This was a group they were formed in 79 to 92 in Tucson, Arizona. But they kind of based most of the career in LA and really were a part of the early Paisley underground movement. And it became really popular with their song Gravity Kills. And that took them really into this hard left into the country and alt rock scene that was going on in part of the cowpunk movement. Originally they had called themselves the Surfers. Serfers. But after moving to LA, they changed their name using one of their songs, Green on Red. And they put out 7 studio albums. This has been a favorite group. During the 80s, I was an absolute fan of Green on Red. The one I'm showing here is Gas, Food, and Life. Mazzy says to hold it up and keep it up so people can see. So, Gas, Food, and Lodging was their second full-length album, coming out in 1985. To me, this album really is a great example of howling country punk. Songs like Here the Dog connects the dots really between Merle Haggard and the Replacements. The vocalist, Dan Stewart, he just has this vicious rasp of a voice, and it's like he smoked one too many cigarettes. But the whole album has this outlaw feel to it. When you look at this album, it's kind of like watching America through the windows of a travel van as they sing about drunks and murders and infidelity. Drive-by truckers took over later on. They use a lot of honky-tonk piano to give it a more rural feel. I mean, this album rocks, and to me, it should now be classified as Americana. Number 19, Los Lobos. Damn, I love this group. God, they have made such great music. It's an American rock band formed in East LA, just a little band from East LA. And they formed actually in 1973 in high school. And they had this love of Fairport Convention, Randy Newman, and Ry Cooder. Now, isn't that just a crazy mix, isn't it? They began to tire of playing American Top 40 hits, so they began to experiment with traditional Mexican music, and they began adding some rock sounds to it. They've put out 16 albums now, and they play really this mix of Chicano rock, Tex-Mex, country rock, Americana, roots rock. It's all put in there. My absolute favorite album was their first full-length album, How Will the Wolf Survive? And the name actually came from a National Geographic article which was called Where Can the Wolf Survive? And what it did is it related to their own struggles of trying to break out. It has songs like I Got Loaded that rocks hard and has this R&B feel. Sorrento Nortina, probably just said that wrong, is a traditional Mexican number, while A Matter of Time blends country and blues. A Matter of Time and Will the Wolf Survive also discuss the lives of immigrants in the U.S. and closing of the borders uh, in crossing the borders in search really of a better life. There's rockabilly feel to this. There's some songs that highlighted the use of accordion and sax. The music, I mean, it really takes on a self-celebratory feel. It just makes you want to get up and dance. And it's just a great album. Now, the one I just showed, I realized I got the right one, but that is just an incredibly good album. But I don't have the picture in front of me, but they're, you know, like the next three, The Neighborhood, absolute wonderful. So, you know, if you can get those three, you're hitting it really, really good. Number 18 is the Pixies, and let's get into them. So the Pixies, it came out of Boston. Like so many great groups in the 80s, Boston was hot. They formed in 86, broke up in 93, reformed in 04. And they were an alt band that was led by Charles Thompson, or Black Francis. I think his parents still called him Charles, though. They drew upon elements of rock and punk rock. Their songs were, I mean, they were known to have this dynamic, loud, quiet shifts to them. Subject matter went anywhere from extraterrestrials, you know, to incest to biblical violence. That's how crazy these guys were. And during their time, they put out 7 albums. Doolittle came out in 1989. This is one toward when I couldn't find vinyl. It was getting really hard, but I found this one. The album was actually more successful overseas than it was in the US, which was interesting. Besides the very popular song Here Comes Your Man, it also contained Monkey Gone to Heaven, Debaser, and Wave of Mutilation. Just classic Pixie songs. The original album, that they really wanted to name it, was called Whore. But I guess they said no. Songs like Tame and Crackety Jones, they're fast, they're aggressive, and then they have their trademark, this loud, quiet dynamic. While other songs like Silver, I Bleed, and Here Comes Your Man have a quieter, slower, more melodic feel to them. And Monkey Goes to Heaven, I really made that thing stand out. There's 2 violins and 2 cellos, and they create these new sounds. Some of the songs, they deal with environmental catastrophe, 3 with prostitution, 2 with biblical vengeance, and 1 about surrealism. Pixies tried to cover it all. This is complex. It really was a complex album lyrically, but the music was tight and it really rocks. That was my number 19. Number 18, the group, the Pixies. Number 17 is Sonic Youth. Oh, by the way, I'm filming in my office, which is on the top floor, without air conditioning. Well, the office gets a little bit toasty. I'm trying to figure out, I just might pack up some books. I could put them in the basement. I got lots of room down there. And maybe I can make some room. I've just been looking and go, oh, where the hell can I put some records at in here? I like books too, but there's some other stuff. But we're working that out, so we're going to get something bigger. But you're not here. You're here to hear about Sonic Youth, right? This group, they were formed in New York in 1981, and they went on to 2011. What an incredible run, 30 years. They started off as this experimental no-wave music band that evolved into one of the most premier bands of the noise rock scene. They were really known for using just a ton of strange, unorthodox guitar tunings, and became really a pivotal influence of the alt and indie rock scene that just blossomed in the 90s. Thurston Moore and Kim Gordon, you know, they formed a couple of earlier bands like what's it called? Male Bonding was one, and Red Milk, and the Arcadians. The name of this band actually came from the name of MC5 Fred Sonic Smith and reggae artist Big Youth. Sonic Youth. The album I want to show, well, I had this one. This is actually, I think this came out, it was 91, so it's not part of the 80s, 1990. Goo. Goo is good. But best Sonic Youth album ever. But the one I'm going to talk about really is an incredible album, Daydream Nation. And that came out in 1988. And this thing was a critical success. And for many, they count this as one of the greatest albums. In fact, their greatest album is one of the top of all times. There was still plenty of noise on this album, but there was also melodies. Melodies began to appear, something that was absolutely new to them. Songs like Hey Joni was a tribute to Hey Joe and to Joni Mitchell, and it contained these surrealistic lyrics. Gordon's singing on here was so intense, especially on like Cross the Breeze, where she would sing, let's go walking on the water. Now you think I'm Satan's daughter. I mean, what a cool lyric. Eliminator Jr. was inspired by Robert Chambers, who was known as the Preppy Killer. This music, it alternates really between intense and hypnotic instrumental passages and just this furious noise explosions. The album is just filled with emotions and textures. The punky Silver Rocket to the hazy drug dreams of Province. It's packed with sounds that take you on multiple listens to pick it all up. There's so much going on. This album, Daydream Nation, charted new ground. If you're just interested in the history of music, you want to know where things come from, Sonic Youth, Daydream Nation, such an important album. And then they went into Goo, and you could just see they really found their stride. That was number 17, Sonic Youth. Number 16, though, let's go to that, XTC. I should drink the alcohol, I haven't ate much of it. XTC was an English rock band that was formed in '72 in Swindon. And it was called, when they first started, Helium Kids, until '75 when they took up XTC. Now, I think I've already talked about, that was in my last series, I talked about that. Their goal was to be completely original and not to play punk rock. That was their goal. They formed in '72, to mind you. Their influences really came from '70s pop, dub, avant-garde music. New York Dolls was actually a really huge influence, but not the punky New York Dolls. The name came from a Jimmy Durante exclamation when, upon discovering the lost chord, he goes, "That's it, I'm in ecstasy." XTC. Okay, how about that? They did have 12 studio albums. The one I want to talk about is Skylarking. This was their 9th album and was produced by Todd Rundgren. He was brought in since the record label felt the previous albums were not selling because they just sounded too English. So bringing Todd to un-English them, right? He was an Anglophile, though. Skylarking really, it was a loose concept album. It was heavily influenced by the music of the 60s. Rundgren, what he did is he brought in orchestrations and different drum patterns, but him and Andy Partridge, big surprise, did not get along well. The original pressings that came out of this did not include the song Dear God, but in the US, that song became a college radio hit, so subsequent pressings included it. The one I'm showing here did include Dear God, which really is a remarkable song. I mean, this album, it begins with, Summer's Cauldron. And it starts with the sound of a bee along with other summer-type sounds mixed in. So you just get this playfulness that's happening. And then there's something, and it just really tells you, okay, this is going to be something special. That's really super. Supergirl is a nice guitar pop song. There's The Man Who Sailed Around the World. No, The Man Who Sailed Around His Soul has a beatnik feel to it, and the arrangements really were based upon a 60s spy film. You can feel that in there. Dear God, I mean, this thing, I mean, it created really an uproar. And it was about a struggling agnostic who writes a letter to God just to challenge his existence. The album, Skylarking, it is filled with hooks and warm arrangements, and some of the lyrics are very dark while others are whimsical. Regretfully, their side project, Dukes of Stratosphere, outsold all of this, but still, what a classic. Number 16, XTC. Number 15, Lime Spiders. Man, I bought that album. I just thought I'd found the most special album in the whole wide world. It just floored me when I heard this. I really wasn't familiar with psychedelic music. It wasn't part of what I was listening to, and then I heard this. Well, they were an Australian punk band which formed in '79 and went on to 1990. They really became known for their screaming vocals and wild fuzz-tone guitar riffs that really created the strain between, shall we say, acid punk and really bordered upon heavy metal when you think about it. Their influences were 60s garage bands and psychedelic bands, which is easy to hear, and just look at the cover, it tells you all. Their name comes from a non-alcoholic drink of vanilla ice cream and lime soda. Dean and Ross can probably tell you all about that from down under. At the group, they put out 4 albums. The Cave Comes Alive, that's the one I want to talk about, was released in '87. It was incredible. The single Slave Girl and My Favorite Girl, in my favorite room, that's it, jumped into the college music charts. It was all over the place. It was just a fuzzed out guitar mayhem. It transported you into the psychedelic cave, shall we say, as soon as the needle hits. The wax, especially on the song My Favorite Room, you knew it was something special. They don't copy the music from the 60s. Instead, to me, I think they create original versions of searing guitars, just this exceptional bass and occasional churning organ. There's this rave up drumming and lead singer, what's his name? Mick Blood, that's it. Screaming and growling lyrics sounding like a man just possessed. They also do an incredibly good cover of Cream's NSU. This was their pinnacle album, and I'm telling you, it is worth seeking out. And I don't think it even costs a whole lot. That's the Live Spiders. The Lime Spiders. The Cave Comes Alive. I must be tired. Number 14, Mission of Burma. Have I mentioned the Boston music scene? Have I talked about that yet? Boston was crazy good. There was so much going on. And number 14 is Mission of Burma. They were formed in '79 and went to '82, and then in '02 they formed again, and they're still going. This was a post-punk band that formed out of Boston. They disbanded in '83 due to the lead guitarist Roger Miller developing tinnitus. It was too painful for him to continue. They only did one full album, but wow, was that a good one. After that, they reformed and they put out 4 more albums. Roger Miller was actually from Ann Arbor, Michigan, but he moved to Boston where he started the group Moving Parts. They saw a plaque on this building. So as far as Mission of Burma, they saw this plaque on this building in New York, and it said Mission of Burma, which became their band name. This is one of these groups that, through one of my books, it's like, Mission of Burma, I gotta find Mission of Burma, because it sounded so good, and it is. VS Verse. This came out in '82, and this was the only album from their first incarnation. But what an album. It's a blend of punk fury and with these post-collegiate smarts. There's songs like Einstein Day. It's just this powerful mid-tempo filled song. Fun World and the Ballad of Johnny Burma show that they still have that punk fury within their music. The music is just dense. It's slipping from beeping guitar harmonics, and it just really has this fun sound. They know how to slow the tempo down, and their lyrics are also just biting. To me, this is one of the many, many great bands that came out of Boston. Number 14, Mission of Burma. Number 12, the Minutemen. Another punk band that was formed in '80 and went on to '85, came out of San Pedro, California. It was composed of a guitarist and vocalist, Dee Boone, bass and vocalist Mike Watt, and drummer George Hurley. They released 4 full-length albums before Boone's death in an auto accident. The remaining members then went on and formed Firehose. And Firehose is a wonderful group, and if you can find their stuff, it's well worth picking up. They were on the SST label and were very close friends of Uskadu. They did a lot of stuff together. The music, it's filled with, shall we say, brief angular song fragments that flow together, kind of like, a river of a babble. I mean, it's like all over in there, just jumbles up. They're mixed in within these short song fragments of bebop while they splice their own hardcore rants, shall we say, with folky diddlings and jazz skronk. I mean, that's the best way to describe the Minutemen. It's just a crazy group. Double Nickels on a Dime is the album that I want to talk about. Another absolute classic album worth seeking. It came out in '84 and is cited as one of the most innovative and enduring albums of the American rock underground. It combined punk rock, funk, country, spoken word, and jazz, and sings about everything from the Vietnam War and racism to the working class experience and linguistics even. It is filled with, get this, 45 songs. It is 2 LP with complex and abstract lyrics, and at times some of them just a stream of consciousness. Some of the tracks are like fractured jazz, while others have this moody folk feel, and some just are off-speed funk. The album was not about volume and aggression. Some consider it to be similar to the, it was similar to kind of a tight, loose sprawl of Trout Mask Replica. The bass is melodic, and the drums have this polyrhythm feel to them. Each side has a solo from a band member, which was kind of cool. And on that side, the band member picked the songs that they were going to use. So it was really collaborative. And side 4 was the leftovers. If we got left, put them there. This was a very original album, and it has influenced hundreds and hundreds of bands. They broke the rules, and they tried about everything possible. And what they did is they created a masterpiece. The Double Nickels on a Dime. Number 13, the Minutemen. Number 12, REM. How could you not talk about REM when you think about Left of the Dial? They came out of Athens, Georgia. Like Boston, like Minneapolis, Athens, Georgia was a hotbed of activity in the 80s, and so many great bands came from that area. They formed in 1980 and broke up in 2011. They played this mix of alt rock, college rock, folk, Django rock. Peter Buck and Michael Stipe, they met actually at a record store where Buck was working, and they found that they had this similar appreciation for the Velvet Underground, big surprise, Television, and Patti Smith. So they got fellow students from the University of Georgia, Bill Berry and Mike Mills, and they formed this band. They considered themselves calling, this is true, they considered themselves calling it Cans of Piss. Then there was Negro Eyes and Twisted Kites, but they settled on REM, which means Rapid Eye Movement. Cans of Piss. I don't think anybody's used that one yet. I'm sorry. I entertain myself. Their music, it's a mixture of chiming folk rock and frat bash dance. I'm having a hard time. Cans of Piss. But they also have these big ballads, and then there's rave ups. Buck's chiming guitar was just, it was a new sound when you think about it in the 80s alt rock scene. And Stipe's mumbled lyrics grabbed attention. Everyone was going, what the hell is he saying? Their first album was incredible, Murmur. What I mean, it grabbed them attention. And it's worth looking for. But I'm going to talk about their second one, Reckoning, from 1984. There's songs like Southern Central Rain, and it's just this simple phrase, I'm sorry, and it's just sung with such remarkable force, and the meanings are just, it's highlighted by this interplay between Mills's melodic bass and Buck's guitar. And I'll tell you, Mike Mills knew how to play a beautiful bass. Don't Go Back to Rockville. I mean, it sends shivers up your spine. It's such a beautiful song. It has just this propulsive piano line that elevates the song. There's also the feeling of Americana in many of the songs. It opens with, what's it called? It's hard when you don't have an album in front of you. Harbor Coat, which really is a perfect explosive track to begin with. Drum parts at times, they seem to be similar to from song to song. You don't hear a lot of difference within the drums, but the choruses show how well so many of these members could sing and harmonize. The album and the group, College Radio Darlings. Number 12, the 80's, one of the most incredible bands to come out of the 80's, REM. Number 11, the LYRES, LYRES. Have I mentioned Boston had one of the greatest music scenes going on in the 80's, especially the early 80's? The LYRES is a Boston band that formed in '79. They produced 8 albums, and they were one of the Paisley Underground bands that were influenced by garage rock. They really play, to me, authentic 60s garage rock, but they give it their own, shall we say, updated sound. It set a standard that really many others would follow after that. Their first full album, On Fire, came out in '84. Now, I didn't show On Fire. I showed this one, the LYRES, but On Fire, another just incredible album. Totally loved. Anything from LYRES you got to love. It starts with the double-headed monster of Don't Give Up Now and Help You Ann, which were both Paisley Underground hits and underground classics. The music is an explosion of colorful organ playing, surging guitars, and great singing. Help You Ann, really, it's buoyed by this phenomenal tremolo guitar. I mean, it just sounds beautiful. The album, I mean, it's just like this nostalgic trip back in time. They have a song from both Davis brothers. It's a set of brothers on here, along with one from Pete Best, the Beatles drummer, The Way I Feel About You. Pete Best did a song. The song Don't Give It Up Now, it uses this guitar riff that came from Lucifer Sam, the song Lucifer Sam by Pink Floyd. And I'm telling you, they use this. There's a song called I believe it's called I'm Telling You. It uses the riff from You Really Got Me. I mean, this is 80's garage rock classic. anything from the Lyres. It was just another one of those groups that I searched to find because of the important music that they put out. On Fire. What a great album. Well worth looking for. I'm going to end this. I have 10 more to go. But I was going to do all 20, just kind of go through quickly. But you know what? You don't need an album cover to do this. The fact is, I love these groups, and I think they're wonderful music. And, you know, pick them, pull them up on YouTube, listen to them, find some place that you can sit and enjoy the music that's coming from these groups. Well worth doing. I got my next 10, and to me, those next 10, it's heavy hitters, man, some great stuff. To some you won't like them, but to me they were the ones that really meant a lot to me. I really appreciate you watching this series. You know, if the flood had happened 2 weeks later, we could have been playing a lot of samples of all of this stuff, but that's okay. Thanks for hanging out with me. Cheers, VC. Appreciate all the love and support that you have given me. Every day is a joy. Every day you just get up and you go, God, pretty cool. It's a cool world we live in, and there's a lot of great people in this world, and you can't ask for anything better. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.